Good morning, Sean. How you doing today? Morning, everybody else. What is up with y'all? And yes, Sean, that are nightmares. Those are the things of which nightmares are made. All right. Okay. So, and let's just start off with nightmare number one. All right. Let's get the worst of the bunch out over with first. Where did I hide that at? Oh, don't tell me I accidentally deleted that one. Oh, no. No, I didn't. I know why I can't find it because it's not there. Share screen. Window. Here we go. Now, I hope y'all can hear this because I'm hearing there's some that they made some changes here to StreamYards, and I'm hoping I'm wrong, or I'm hoping what I heard is wrong. So let's see here what happens. Let's see, did that sound come through? No, that sound did not come through. Okay. So let me try this again. Share. Oh, it's tab audio only now. Okay, so let me do this way. And is there a way of getting this um I don't know. Okay, let me copy that. Close. Yes, this is learning on the fly here. Okay, so let me try this. Okay, and then come over here. Is it going to open it here? Yep, I knew I should have tried this earlier and done this. Okay, and yes, this is being super fashion here. You're no. Okay, this is this idiot here, this gentleman, if you want to call him that, this creature that I've got there. Uh, he, he is Jeffrey Marsh. Okay, and I'm trying to find. I'm Okay, there we go. I found it. Okay, now I've got it on tab. So cancel that. All right, present, share screen, uh, window. No, I don't want window. Chrome tab. Here we go. All right. Now we should have the audio for what this guy has to say. This
Your
creature.
parents screwed up. It's okay to say so. That's why I made a Patreon, so that we could talk about it, so that we could connect in a way that has more privacy, so that we could talk to each other in a way that's more open and stuff that we wouldn't share like in the comments of a video like this. I think you're worthy and valuable, and I wanted to spend more connected time with you, healing together and hearing your deeply inspiring stories.
This guy, this creature is talking to children. Hey, Dar.
Ahoy! What fresh hell is this?
This is that creature on TikTok who goes Jeffrey Marsh. And this creature is normally very aggravating. He's one of them creatures that says that you should, you know, if you decide you're a female, and if anybody that doesn't want to have sex for you is a phobe of some kind. But then he turned this creature. I'm using he, but I'm using it accidentally. This creature, this thing, just released that I just played.
I missed that, so
Okay,
sorry.
well let me play it again for you.
See, that's the problem with me showing up late. I'm screwing you up. Play again though. Be most interested. Well, did you accidentally kill yourself? I don't hear anything.
Oh, you don't hear that?
I don't see any movement or anything else.
Okay. Uh, okay, let me stop that share, come back over and reshare it.
Yeah, because you got quiet and I didn't see anything, so I was like,
Oh,
"Whoa,
okay.
what the hell?"
All right, are you seeing the video now?
I am, but there he goes.
Okay.
Right.
So let me try this again.
Your parents screwed up. It's okay to say so. That's why I made a Patreon, so that we could talk about it, so that we could connect in a way that has more privacy, so that we could talk to each other in a way that's more open and stuff that we wouldn't share like in the comments of a video like this. I think you're worthy and valuable, and I wanted to spend more connected time with you, healing together and hearing your deeply inspiring stories.
Do
Okay.
people actually fall for this shit?
He is talking to children. Because remember, the first words out of his mouth, your parents screwed up.
Yeah, that's deeply disturbing.
is talking to children here. He is not. He is not talking to adults. He is not talking to people 18 and over. Nil, this is grooming in action. This is grooming in action. He wants these kids to come to his Patreon where he can talk to them without their parents knowing what's being said because their parents won't have access to his Patreon. Only the child will. And of course, all that stuff done in Patreon, that's not out in the public like his TikTok channel is.
Yeah, but don't you have to have like a credit card or something to sign up with Patreon and all that?
I know some
I'm
people who
just
have
asking.
free Patreons. You can sign up to somebody's Patreon account and not cost you anything.
Right. But do you still
So
need a credit card or something to sign up for? I'm curious. I
I
don't have Patreon. I haven't signed up to anybody's Patreon or anything like that.
I haven't signed up for anyone's either, so I don't know. The thing
Maybe
is
somebody in chat will tell us.
this guy has had this video reported at least 200 times
And of course, nothing ever happens.
over the past 24 hours. And it's still there. This video has been reported by at least 200 different people. He was a joke. Libs of TikTok made this guy famous on our side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
All right, because of some of the stupidity that this creature says. And then now it is doing this.
Yeah, I like it is a good way of saying it.
This creature. Okay, you can sign through PayPal or Patreon with a prepaid card. Okay. But yeah, this is beyond stupidity. This is a grown man asking children, a grown adult, a grown somebody well over the age of 21, asking children to sign on for private chats with it.
Yeah.
To where the children's parents cannot see what they are talking about, the issues they are discussing. I just wanted to get that out there this morning. I mean, there's not a whole lot more I can say about it. No, I'm hoping the police in whatever area this idiot lives in has been notified. I'm sure the FBI has been notified of him.
We can hope.
Of this creature's actions. But yeah, Jeffrey Marsh. I probably ought to set up something in Newshound for when it's arrested.
Yeah.
And brought up on and child endangerment charges. Because we know it's going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, we hope.
Yeah, well, we can only hope. So, anyway, and how are you doing this morning? I hate to break that on you like that, then ask you how you're doing. But
I was doing
it,
much better before I joined this shit show. Yeah, no, I'm just busier than a one-armed paper hanger in a 50-mile-an-hour breeze.
Evil Dead will catch you later. I'm done with that idiot. I'm done with that groomer. I just wanted to make people aware of what he is doing, what he did over this last few days.
Yeah, people like that should be, or yeah, people like that should be publicly shamed.
It should be more than publicly shamed. I'm sorry, but they
Yeah,
should be
bring back
jailed.
hangings in the town square.
They should be jailed. They should be
Yes, they
buried
should.
under the jail. You know,
Should
um,
be jailed. I like that.
in a The Sword of Truth by Terry Goodkind. And have you ever read that series?
No.
Okay, it's a very adult Harry Potter.
Oh.
Okay, um, and when I mean very adult, I mean very adult. I would not allow anybody under the age of 16 to read these books. I would not recommend them for anybody under the age of 16. Probably not under the age of 18, as in they're not sexually explicit, but some of the events are not meant for the younger minds, such
Yeah.
as such as this. One of the tortures invited upon the inhabitants, particularly a certain group of young ladies, they would be strapped uh, down to the floor
Yeah.
and have their midriff exposed and a bucket tightly pressed against their stomach. And inside that bucket would be a couple of rats. And then they would put hot coals on the top of the bucket.
That does not sound good.
And of course, what are these rats going to do? They going to try to find a way out. Well, they ain't going to get out through that metal bucket.
No. So they have to eat through the person, right?
Right. So, but that soft flesh underneath that bucket is a way for them to get out. But of course, they would remove the bucket before the individual died.
Yeah.
Allow them to heal up, and then, if necessary, do it again. It was a form of punishment. It was a form of punishment. So, but I could see something like that done to groomers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, there you go.
okay, but not necessarily to their midriff. Areas
Uh,
slightly south of there.
yeah, there you go.
But anyway, or the good old fashioned wood chipper.
Yeah, yeah. No problem there.
So, all right. So that takes care of the, as Sean said, nightmare number one on the my thumbnail for the day.
What?
And by
There's
the way,
more?
Morning Badger, I didn't mean to ignore you or Neil this morning. Apologize for that.
Is that the mighty green badger outdoors?
Yes, it most definitely is.
Hey, long time no see, man. Yeah, so we used to Green Badger and I, we used to be in the audience quite a bit together with the with Scotty and a couple other folks.
Ah, Okay, this other individual that I had on there, that's Gigi Sohn, Gigisohn.
Yeah.
And she is on her third nomination to the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission.
Yeah, familiar with both of those.
And she is quite a piece of work.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, she's been accused of lying and all kinds of neat things. Now, usually when a nominees never get a third hearing, second hearings are extremely, extremely rare.
Yeah.
And because usually if they don't get past the first hearing, if they don't get out of the subcommittee, then it's just over and done with. That
Yeah.
nominee is dead in the water. But
Well, it should be.
Biden has renominated her now twice. Nominated, then renominated twice. He really wants her, or somebody really wants her, sitting on the FCC. And anybody that this administration wants so badly to sit on the Federal Communications Commission board, I have to wonder why. What is it in their makeup, in their ideology that has them so enamored that they've got to go on? Now, a few things just to clear up some issues. All right. We've all heard of net neutrality.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you think of net neutrality, you think that basically, at least the way I've always looked at it until I've done a little more research in it, is that ISPs can't dictate speeds or anything else. Everything is granted equal access on the internet.
Yeah.
They can't favor their, like Verizon can't favor anything they own. Comcast can't favor their own websites over somebody else's, and they can't slow down websites that they don't like.
Yeah, if only that was the case.
You would think that's what's net neutrality.
You would hope that's what it is.
That's what you would hope. And then there was an actual several times the FCC has come close saying that net neutrality. Well, here, let me just share this here real quick.
Yeah, sure way.
All right. This is from Encyclopedia Britannica, net neutrality pros and cons.
Yeah.
Should the U.S. have net neutrality laws? Pro 1, net neutrality preserves free speech on the internet by prohibiting internet service providers from blocking content. All right. ISPs may slow, this stops them, or block websites that disagree with companies' political viewpoints and interfere with their monetary interests. All right. That's what you want. However, most large internet companies, including Google, Facebook, and YouTube, Twitter, were started and grew to success without net neutrality regulations. And net neutrality is just government heavy-handed regulation where it's not needed. Former FCC Commissioner Michael Riley stated periods without net neutrality rules were times of innovation and investment. According to economists, the entire rationale for net neutrality ignores positive economic outcomes and the provision of internet services that resulted in 20 years of light touch regulation. In other words, it hasn't been broke, so why try to fix it?
Exactly. I totally agree.
Why try to throw rules in where no rules are currently needed?
Yeah, I
All
agree.
right. However, according to a DC court ruling, Verizon versus FCC, the Verizon had been uh, content censorship, including two separate instances where broadband ISPs blocked access to VoIP applications, and one instance of an ISP blocking an online payment service. All right, so to me, that would be more of a local issue than a federal government issue.
Yeah.
But that does step though, there should be a law, should there be a law, would two instances be enough to create a need for a law? And
Uh,
turning the internet over to the FCC in situations like this. Because
well,
what the FCC is wanting and is, or whether what this woman is wanting, and it'll come out, is she wants the Congress, rather than to write a law, she just wants them to give the FCC the authority to determine what is and is not net neutrality, much as the BATF can determine what is and is not a short-barreled rifle, what is and is not an automatic rifle, what is, they can come up with their own rules as they see fit.
yeah, see, and we don't like that idea because what you have then is a bunch of unelected bureaucrats making rules. And so, and seeing that's the other issue that I have with this is now you have unelected bureaucrats making basically laws um, when the only people are supposed to make laws are the Congress.
Right. Well, see, technically, they're not making laws. They're making rules and regulations
Making rules and regulations, true, but which
that have the effect of laws because there's
right, and they're
financial penalties and also imprisonment.
right, and they enforce them as laws. Like the ATF rules, right, are not laws, but if you break those rules, you have the same punishments in that. So again, you have unelected bureaucrats making up laws, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. So anyway, that's me. I'll shut
Okay.
up now and let you
Well,
finish
no,
up.
you just expressed the exact point I was making. What the FCC wants and what some people push for, is the FCC having the authority to make things up as they see fit. Let's see. Pro 2, net neutrality protects consumers by preventing ISPs from speeding or slowing or charging higher fees for select online content. Again, people have got a choice of ISPs. I've got choices of 4 different ISPs where I live. All right. You can always, if you don't like the ISP you got, you can change it. Yeah, it's a pain in the butt because now you got to change. If you're using your ISP's email account, and you got to change your email, transfer all your email accounts over and everything else, and everything that you may have had, you've now lost. Anything you had saved to your old email account. So yes, it can be a pain in the ass, but you're not tied to a single ISP. And as always, whenever anybody creates a rule or a law, it grows. What starts off as a very simple law, all of a sudden it becomes It's like that weed that never stops growing in your backyard, and it becomes a very convoluted mess. Let's see here. Net neutrality promotes competition by providing a level playing field for new companies. Okay, really? No, there's no such thing as a level playing field for new companies because established companies they have already signed contracts with government agencies.
Right, and there's
Uh,
a barrier to entry.
right. I mean, upstarts. I mean, look at Rumble. Look at how many companies have tried to take over YouTube and how many have failed. Yeah, you've got World Star still sitting out there, but World Star serves a very niche market. You had Delights out there for a while. Rumble seems to be growing, but who
Oh,
knows
it's
with that?
growing. It's growing quite a bit, actually.
Right, but is it ever going to be able to really and truly stand up against YouTube and all the money Google has, that
Uh,
Alphabet has to throw at? I mean, YouTube is a lost leader for them, for their company. It's what helps keep their taxes down. So, okay, those are the three big things that they're talking about for net neutrality. All right. So let's get to the actual hearings that this woman had.
yeah, let's hear about it.
Okay. And as is my wont, I will not be uh, playing like this first one here's got 4 minutes of questions. I probably won't play all 4 minutes. Yeah, kudzu, exactly.
Kudzu. That sounds like a Carolinian username.
Okay.
Because you know
So,
about the kudzu, right?
well, yeah, kudzu's one hell of a weed.
Yeah, they imported in Carolina to keep the hillsides from slipping away.
And it didn't work.
No, it did not.
It's like that water lilies that they brought into Florida
Yeah,
and has absolutely destroyed waterfronts, water lakes and ponds and such.
you know, it's funny how that stuff works.
Yep. Rather, people. One of these days, people will learn you don't import species into parts where they're not naturally there because there's
Yeah, just ask
there's a reason
Australia
why they're
about
not
that.
there. No, they don't have any natural predators. But there's that one guy, speaking of kudzu, though, who's making a bloody fortune with his goats. Eating, turns them loose on a hill full of goats, and in a week, all that kudzu's gone.
Yeah,
Have you seen him?
no,
Oh, okay. There's a guy who's takes herds of goats out and lets them loose.
well, that works.
The next before, so
Okay.
thank you for your indulgence. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is now the third time that Ms. Sohn has come before the committee. She's given dismissive and evasive answers and outright flipped on positions she had otherwise consistently taken throughout her career. I continue to have serious concerns about the nominee's record. She has troubling conflicts of interest, which prompted her second appearance before the committee last year. She was a leading board member of Locast, a company that pirated content from local broadcasters. A federal court issued an injunction against her company from operating this illegal scheme. Ms. Sohn tried to do damage control in our hearings. She eventually promised to recuse herself from certain proceedings at the FCC if confirmed. I believe this promise essentially admitted to conflicts of interest on matters such as retransmission consent and television copyrights. But her recusal was non-binding and vaguely construed. Her answers to hearing questions also showed no regret for her actions. She even downplayed the situation by emphasizing that Locast was just a nonprofit, framing the company as if it were a charity. It is not. The FCC is charged with protecting intellectual property rights. Copyright protections are the lifeblood of local broadcasters.
Okay, now what they're talking about here at Lowcast, they were taking off-air broadcasting, turning it on the internet, and then allowing people to download anything to stream it to their homes.
Yeah.
All right, and they had no contracts with the local stations, no nothing else. So they're basically they're stealing all the local stations' content,
Yeah.
and then allowing people to donate for Lowcast to support them. It was donations only. And they ended up being in court, and of course they lost.
But Ms. Stone thinks she's some kind of copyright Robin Hood. She told this very committee that she thought she was helping broadcasters while she was, in fact, stealing their content. It's incredible. Lowcast wasn't the first copyright controversy centered around Ms. Stone. She also championed the FCC's failed set-top box order while she was a senior advisor at the commission. That order received major blowback for the lack of transparency around its drafting and circulation as well. I previously questioned Ms. Stone about transparency concerns, such as why she bragged on a public panel about concealing another controversial order as a senior FCC advisor. Then there was the Inspector General report, which I would say found that she did leak confidential documents to the press while employed at the FCC. Her action.
So this woman has lied or misled or misstated information twice before when in these hearings. Now, when nominees, well, not always, most times nominees, when they go up before the Senate or the House, they are sworn in to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me.
Yeah. All that good stuff, right?
Right. And while it's not uncommon for them to stretch the truth, shade it, to flat outright lie is another story. Of course, it's not often that that anything happens to them when they're
Right.
there. So they get a get out free card. All right, now this is just 2 minutes and 30 seconds of her expressing the history of this woman coming up before the House or before the Senate. So we'll let and then Ted Cruz. Okay. Oh man. Okay, let's see here. Let me find where this woman let's see here. Here we go. Got one where the woman is actually questioned and listen to her answers. Because I want to be somewhat fair.
Yeah.
Let her have a chance to respond.
Many live, work, and raise their families in those rural communities. Bridging the digital divide and getting access to every American has long been a bipartisan interest and an important job for the FCC. In written congressional testimony, you claim that, quote, policymakers have focused disproportionately on broadband deployment in rural areas, end quote. Residents of North Carolina know that improving internet access in rural areas keeps these smaller communities thriving. We need an FCC that's focused on bridging the digital divide in North Carolina and prioritizing the economic and educational benefits of better broadband. It's also concerning that law enforcement groups like the National Sheriff's Association and the Fraternal Order of Police oppose your nomination. You're listed as a board member of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, and since your nomination, you've tried to minimize the significance of your board seat. Being a board member is no small thing.
All right, now the Electronic Frontier. The Electronic Frontier is a very unique group, and years ago, I fully supported them.
Yeah.
All right, they were for a lot of very good things when they started. Let's see, I had a tab of Electronic Frontier. Where did it go? Of things that they stood for, and I may have lost it amongst everything I closed out. Anyway, yeah, I probably did. But initially, I actually supported it. It's very good. Uh, they EF. Let me open that up again. No, Electronic Frontier. Here we go. All right. We'll just take, and I know I'm going about this roundabout way, but some of these things people don't know about. If you haven't, because they've been in and out of the news over the past 30 or 40 years. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, they're very big on free speech. They really pushed for basically the First Amendment. Remember, at one time, the United States owned the internet before Biden or Obama gave it away.
Yeah.
And they pushed hard for the First Amendment to be applied to the internet across the board. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Other than things that were blatantly illegal, such as pushing for murder, arson, kidnapping, this kind of stuff. Anything that, real common sense says is illegal would be the only things not allowed on the internet, which was great. They were for they were for people talking out about COVID. The right to record police, the right, a lot of very things that are important to groups of people for getting messages out. Okay. Which was very, I actually supported that. And then they became huge backers of Antifa and BLM and started telling them how to hide their identities online and in person. And so to escape repercussions for their actions. They started supporting the dark web. And when they started supporting the dark web, that's where I withdrew my support from them. Because of all the blatantly illegal stuff that happens on the dark web. So, when you hear about her support, current support for the EFF, that's why it's questionable at this point, because they do support so many things which, personally I couldn't support.
EFF has called you a close collaborator for nearly 20 years. You've donated to them and made public calls for others to donate to EFF. In a letter to this committee, the Fraternal Order of Police stated that you have an anti-police bias and refuse to disavow many extreme positions from EFF. In the summer of 2020, as rioters burned businesses across the country, EFF encouraged folks to go to the streets, even publishing a memo on how to thwart law enforcement investigations, suggesting people buy a prepaid disposable phone and dress for anonymity. Chair, I'd like to submit this to the record.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, the FCC and law enforcement, they work together a lot, as we know. And as you know, the FCC makes sure that law enforcement alerts are delivered over communications networks and that those networks can comply with court orders to aid in law enforcement investigations. Your deep association with the anti-law enforcement views of the EFF leads me to believe that your confirmation would, as the Fraternal Order of Police wrote, quote, show a complete disregard for the hardworking men and women of law enforcement, end quote. Ms. Sohn, you've taken to social media to express your anti-police bias. For example, you have retweeted and liked statements supporting defund the police. You've also retweeted a statement referring to federal law enforcement officers responding to riots in 2020 as, quote, armed goons in riot gear with tear gas, end quote, as Senator Cruz mentioned in his opening remarks. Ms. Sohn, given your demonstrated anti-police bias, do you understand why law enforcement officers don't trust you to look out for their best interest, especially if you help lead an agency that's a critical partner of law enforcement? Yes or no? And just simply yes or no, please.
Could you repeat the question because I kind of lost?
Yeah, the question's really based on your understanding of why law enforcement's concerned. I mean, do you understand why law enforcement has concern, yes or no?
No, I don't, actually.
You actually don't. Okay, so that's
No,
actually
I'm very
telling us-
surprised.
Thank you. I do want to reclaim my time here. So, I mean, it's obvious why they would be concerned with these tweets and retweets and the things that you would support. But Ms. Sohn, the EFF published a guide called Attending a Protest.
Now, I do have to question using somebody's retweets against them unless they are explicitly endorsing that retweet. Because I retweet a lot of things so that I've got them in my timeline so that I can refer back to them later on. I don't support a lot of the things that I end up retweeting. And then there's times I retweet things that I find out later that, like I should have brought this up at the beginning, that thing about Patrick Mahomes testing positive for PEDS in the post-game urinalysis, which turned out that guy, that supposed sports writer, is a fraud. And that whole tweet was garbage. So, but anyway. What a person retweets doesn't hold the same condemnation to me. I can't condemn that as much as what somebody actually tweets with their own words. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
That tells people to wear a mask. It will protect you from being identified in photos of the protest. Ms. Sohn, does encouraging folks to hide their identity during violent situations make law enforcement's job easier? Yes or no, simply?
I don't consider protests necessarily violent, sir. Look, I don't make
Well,
policy.
during violent situations, as we saw in 2020, do you understand why law enforcement would have a concern with you suggesting that people enhance their anonymity? Yes or no?
I understand why people might not want to be
Sorry.
surveilled. I understand that. But I had nothing to do with.
So I was hoping for a yes or no that you could actually understand law enforcement's concern.
I understand,
So
absolutely
you
understand.
do understand
Yes.
law enforcement's concern. Thank
I
you.
do, yes.
Ms. Sohn, we can learn a lot by who a person associates with, and you've been associated with a lot of radical partisans. You're an EFF board member and have received support from a group 18 Million Rising, which has said, quote, policing has never been an effective response to violence because police are agents of white supremacy, end quote. The FCC needs impartial leadership, and unfortunately, I don't believe that you offer that. I fear that your confirmation would make it harder for law enforcement to protect North Carolinians and make it harder for my state's many rural communities to get desperately needed broadband. I urge all of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to oppose your nomination. And again, thank you for being here. I yield back.
Can I
Yes,
respond
go
to
ahead.
that?
Well,
Quickly.
Just a couple of things. First of all, my tweets and retweets are about as banal and basic as you can imagine. Police
I would hardly call supporting sending out information on how to avoid identification by the police during violent protests as being banal. I would hardly, I'd hardly call saying that police are a sign of white supremacy as being banal.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There's so I'd love to know what her definition is.
brutality is bad. Militarization of police. Again, this is not me speaking, it's just likes and retweets. That Alexandria Ocasio tweet or retweet that I did was because she was explaining what she meant by defund the police. I actually personally feel that the defund the police term is stupid and it's been counterproductive. That's the only reason I retweeted that. I do not support defunding the.
Madam Chair, I just want to be clear, I did yield back my time. Thank you.
I thank the senator. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Let me just say first that I've.
And this is something here I've noticed that now remember, the Democrats are still in charge of the Senate. His time is over and done with. So whose time is she speaking on here? He yielded back his time. His clock is stopped. So is she now using the chairman's time, or is she just being given free time to rant and rave here?
No, she's just been given time because she's on their side.
Right.
Always respected and worked with law enforcement ever since I was in law school. In fact, I just did a walkthrough in my neighborhood 2 weeks ago with the police. So I'm really baffled by this opposition. It's the Fraternal Order of Police's biggest concern is EFF's encryption position, which, by the way, the FCC has no jurisdiction over, and I've not spoken about it. I mean, it's similar with the FOSTA SESTA. I've not spoken about these things. These are not. I care about FCC stuff, and this is not FCC stuff.
All right. Ah, crap. I hate it when I do that. So, Gigi, I mean, I'm not going to play the 6-minute lead up that Ted Cruz got because it's just more accusations. It's your biases, things that she has said in the past coming back to bite her in the butt. Now, Marsha Blackburn had a good one here for her.
Couple of things I want to discuss that I didn't get to yesterday. In your past career, you've made it your job to go after certain companies in the telecom industry, and you've particularly been harsh with internet service providers. And in 2019, you tweeted, and I'm quoting the tweet, "Big tech companies are under enormous scrutiny while big telecom and cable and deregulated and consolidated. What's missing is the enormous amount of money big telecom and cable are spending to ensure that the focus stays on tech and not them." Even in your testimony that you submitted to us, you suggest that regulated entities are the ones making false and misleading attacks, and I'm quoting you there, on your record because they fear you, your choice of terms. So how can we believe you will be impartial if an issue involving any of these companies comes before you as a commissioner?
Now, first, I would say that every single industry player who I've criticized, I've also worked with. And not long before I got nominated, I worked closely with Verizon and Comcast and AT&T to get the emergency broadband benefit to get a letter together to support the emergency broadband benefit. So I've worked with these companies. And as we said to Senator Vance, a proceeding at the FCC is constrained. You have to follow the record, decide based on the record, using the procedures outlined in the Administrative Procedure
Okay,
Act.
then,
And
yes, let me ask you about
Sure.
that and where you're going with that response. And I saw your response to Senator Vance. So if you're leaning into this component,
The problem is there's exceptions to those rules. And all you got, and the FCC, like these other ones, they've done it in the past to where when they get somebody to miss a meeting and, for some reason they'll get somebody, not to show up so that they can pass a rule that normally wouldn't have passed. Or they've got, and of course, like everything else, there's exemptions written into the law for them. I'm just going to break it down. Y'all pull up Gigi on your own, look at her, and you really have to wonder why the Biden administration has pushed her 3 times now. This is her third go round in front of the Senate for the same job. She's been denied twice before. There's got to be a problem here somewhere.
that your background, as you say in your testimony, your background as an advocate, your choice of words there, and you suggest that that is what makes you a good commissioner. That is going to help make you a good commissioner. If being an advocate is what positions you to do this job, then why should we think you would act differently in this job when you were a commissioner?
Well, because as a policy, I know that the role of a policymaker is different than the role of an advocate. And just let me also say, I really only asked to be treated like other nominees for the FCC. We've had nominees for the FCC, including my former boss, who worked for 2 industries, and he was a very, very fervent advocate for his industries. Chairman Pai worked for Verizon, and I'm sure he was a very fervent advocate for Verizon. So I'm just asking
then,
to be treated the same way, Senator.
Okay, let's look at it a different way. You were named a top lobbyist by the Hill.
And they went through on their first fly-throughs, lady. You're on your third. If you want to be treated the same, you wouldn't be there now. So you've already gotten special considerations.
In 2012 and 2013. So do you consider yourself a lobbyist or do you consider yourself an advocate?
I haven't been registered as a lobbyist for years, and that just, in fact, I was registered as a lobbyist very briefly, but when I ran public knowledge, I stopped going to the Hill, so it didn't make any sense. And that Hill lobbyist, best lobbyist, doesn't mean that you're registered as a lobbyist. It just means you're a good advocate. So I was very proud of that distinction.
All right. I checked on the number of filings that you signed your name to at the FCC, and filings and proceedings, it was nearly 150 that you had signed your name to. You said you will voluntarily recuse yourself from some broadcast issues if confirmed. However, you also participated in proceedings on many other topics ranging from net neutrality to universal service and intercarrier compensation. Once again, as we look at this, whether the work is as an advocate or a lobbyist or a term you've discounted, activist, should you be recusing yourself from all of this variety of issues that are going to come about, issues you've previously signed your name to filings and proceedings? Would you be recusing yourself from all of those?
Yes, Senator, I addressed this quite at length in the February 9th hearing, and I'll just repeat myself. My voluntary recusal was an attempt to address the concerns, as we heard them again today, that people had over my participation on the Sports Fan Coalition New York board, which ran Lowcast. Yeah. So I voluntarily recused myself at the nexus of the work I had done previously at the FCC, not at the FCC, as an advocate working at the FCC, and the Lowcast board. Okay, so that's why I voluntarily recused, to address those specific concerns. What you're asking for is not tethered to anything other than just every single issue out there. And again, I just want to be treated,
I would disagree with that. These are tethered to statements you've agreed with and filings that you have signed.
In other words, you've already taken positions on these, and with the wide brand of stuff that she's taken positions on, how can she be an effective FCC commissioner? Because she have to recuse herself from damn near every issue comes before the FCC.
Well, she can't be, and that's the issue. But the Biden administration wants her because she's, female. Because after all, as Joe said himself, many of the females on his cabinet are women.
Yeah, at least half the women on his cabinet are women.
Yep, that's what he said. I mean, he said it. I did it. I'll just repeat
So
because I am like totally, um, totally on board with that.
yes, I'm totally on board with that too. All right, now the last piece of news that has popped up, and this is the one that's got me the most. Well, okay, well, I've got to do this. I've got to show this. All right, I've made it no secret. I don't hold personal animosity against most sports players. There's only one player that I absolutely, one person in sporting that I absolutely detest. And that's a gentleman who's so full of himself, he's nicknamed himself the King. Well, there's a recent quote of his that he made on HBO. And if this was anybody else of a different skin tone saying this, something similar to this, there would be some hell being raised across the nation. I'm just going to leave that up there for you guys to read. Could you imagine what would happen if anybody else across the country and somebody of a different background has said that?
Oh, LeBron James, yeah, that dude.
Yeah. I don't feel like spitting in my bed, so that's why I didn't mention his name. Because I mean, I've got to, wash my mouth out whenever I say that name. All right.
Yeah, not a very good person.
No, not a good person at all. Okay. Are you ready for a trip in the time machine? Ready to go back to 2020?
Yeah.
Back in 2019, back in 2020, a bunch of former intelligence operatives got together and wrote a letter about Hunter Biden's laptop because it was starting to make the news. And of
Yeah.
course, the Politico got a hold of this letter. And, all the mainstream media really wanted this laptop issue to go away.
Yes, they did.
They did not want that anywhere around. They didn't want it to be a thing at all. Because, well, it could have been damaging to the potential election. I've seen some surveys, some polling that have suggested that enough people would have changed their votes had this gotten more serious, if this issue had gotten some more serious news and looking into during that time frame. And supposedly it had been enough to persuade the election in different directions. I don't know. Now, to find the letter itself, it took me almost an hour this morning to actually find the letter itself that these gentlemen put out, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm assuming there's a few ladies signed on to it. I don't know. But anyway, let's take a look at this letter. October 19th. So, we're really talking about the October surprise here. public statement on the Biden emails. We are all individuals who devote a significant portion of our lives to national security. Some of us served in senior positions of policy departments and agencies. Some of us served senior positions in the intelligence community. Some of us political appointees, some career officials. Many of us worked for presidents of both parties. We are also all individuals who see Russia as one of our nation's primary adversaries. All of us have an understanding of the wide range of Russian overt and covert activities that undermine U.S. national security, with some of us knowing Russian behavior intimately as we work to defend our nation against it as a career. Few of us worked against Russian information operations in the United States over the past several years. Perhaps most important, each of us believes deeply that the American citizens should determine the outcomes of elections, not foreign governments. All of us agree with the founding fathers' concern about damage that foreign interference in our politics can do to our democracy. Now, I want to stop here for just a moment. How many times coming up to elections as such do we hear who Great Britain, who Germany, who France, who do the leaders in NATO want to see as our next president? Who does Canada and who does the government of Mexico want to see as our next president? Now, these are things that are brought up quite frequently. These polls and such. And my response to those have always been, who gives a damn? I don't care in fact, the person they want to see is usually the person I don't want to see for obvious reasons. I don't want a president that's going to look out for Russia's or France's or England's best interests over our own. But anyway, it is for these reasons that we write to say that the arrival of the U.S. political scene of emails purportedly belonging to Vice President Biden's son Hunter, much of it related to his time serving on board of the Ukrainian gas company Burisma, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. Now, that is this paragraph that the media threw out there. 51, more than 50 or 50 U.S. security intelligence agents say this email, this laptop is all Russian disinformation. It's got all the earmarks. And got everything. If you talked about that laptop, you were spreading disinformation. You were shut down on social media. The mainstream media, NBC, ABC, CNN, CBS, MSNBC, they all shut you down as spreading disinformation. Even Fox News, you are spreading disinformation. Now, this next paragraph, though, we want to emphasize that we do not know if the emails provided to the New York Post by President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, are genuine or not. We do not have the evidence of Russian involvement. It's just our experience that makes us deeply suspicious that the Russian government played a significant role in this case. If we are right, this is Russia trying to influence how Americans vote in this election, and we strongly believe Americans need to be aware of that. Do y'all ever remember hearing those two paragraphs or that fifth paragraph getting any media airplay? Dar, do you remember that getting pushed out there at all?
Can't say as I do.
Yeah, Green Badger, exactly. Remind me again the nationality of the author of the Steele dossier.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. There are, okay, then the rest of this letter is basically, uh, supporting their position that it is Russian disinformation. Okay. Now, let me put this, I'm putting this into the chat. What Politico had this letter hidden this morning. They really did have this letter hidden this morning. They had the initial article hidden. That it took a little digging to find it. But anyway, there is. If you want to read the letter yourself, there it is. Okay. It is PDF format. I've downloaded it so I don't lose it again. So it can't be memory hold. Oops. We've lost that letter now. It's no longer around. Okay. So, James Clapper came out this weekend. The man that authored and signed that letter, first signature on that letter. Political deliberately distorted letter flagging Hunter Biden laptop as potential Russian disinfo, former DNI says. The Washington Post reported Monday that James Clapper, former director of national intelligence, accused Politico of distorting a letter he signed with dozens of other former national security officers regarding a laptop left by Hunter Biden at a Delaware repair shop. It's been over 2 years, and it's taken him this long to come out and say that. Why didn't he say that back in October of 2020? Why didn't he come out and say that back in October and early November when this letter was the news? Bueller? Bueller? You have any answers for me back there in the back of the room, Bueller? Why has it taken him 2.5 years to come out and say this? Clapper stated to the Post that all they did is raise a yellow flag suggesting Russian disinformation. Political intentionally distorted what I said. It was obvious in paragraph 5. Yeah, the paragraph that nobody read in the mainstream media, and the paragraph that you were silent about when they're being so bodacious and audacious about paragraph number 4. Paragraph 4 was the headlines. You were silent about paragraph 5, refuting paragraph 4. Now, I don't want to say it was partisanship, but it was partisanship for Clapper keeping his mouth shut. Why would anybody keep their mouth shut for 2.5 years? Suddenly pop up and say, Political lied, Political did this. They done me wrong.
It's called CYA.
Yeah, CYOA. But it's too late for that. It's too late. He should have did that 2.5 years ago, back in October of 2020. October and November of 2020. He should have stepped up then and refuted these charges. He, first of all, paragraph 4 or paragraph 5 should have been paragraph 1. That should have been the lead paragraph. You know, you don't, you don't throw your make your claims and then down at the very bottom, or following that, then say, well, we may be wrong about what we just said. Now, if you want to be honest about it, you say, hey, we may be wrong, but this is what we think. Now, I mean, I know that's how I do it. When I'm talking, I'm talking to my wife or I'm talking to my boss about something. I did this morning. Had to call in and say, hey, I may be wrong, but I think this here just happened. I'm not there. I don't know 100%, but I think this just happened. And they said, okay, fine. We'll have to look into it. I have to wonder if he's not up for something and he's trying to clean up his past real quick before he gets, some sort of recognition or some sort of appointment or something. Or is his guilty could it be just his guilty conscience is finally playing up to him?
No, I think his guilty conscience is getting to him.
But does anybody who works in security like this and actually have a conscience?
Yeah, I don't think any of them do.
I mean, for 2.5 years, he kept silent on this. And I don't understand why all of a sudden he popped out. But there are some people who are claiming vindication now because of this. One of them being Ratcliffe. Former DNI John Ratcliffe said he was vindicated by the truth Tuesday after his predecessor, James Clapper, claimed a letter he signed dismissing the Hunter Biden laptop as Russian information was deliberately distorted. Radcliffe at the time publicly rejected the letter's assertion, stressing the U.S. intelligence officials found no intelligence that supports that theory, but his rejection of the Russian narrative made him the target of liberal pundits and media outlets who spent months chastising him for contradicting what others in the national security community. It was 1 against 50 at the time, but I knew the truth was on my side, and ultimately the truth defends itself. So, yeah. I'm still curious as to what made Clapper decide to come out finally.
I still think it's a CYA thing, but that's just me. And this could be, the whole part of them trying to take old Biden down.
Let's see here. But despite the political framing, Clapper and the other signatories didn't come out of the woodwork at the time to dispute the characterization of their words, nor did they seem to care that numerous Democrats, including Biden officials like Psaki, Rice, Benningfield, Bates, and others, shared the story on Twitters or touted its contents in interviews. Instead, here we go. Instead, Clapper and others waited more than 2 years to speak out, just as the House Republicans are starting to investigate the matter. I didn't think about that. Radcliffe and Clapper signatories didn't cry foul, their own words being twisted because they believe they put the story to bed with the Russian disinformation claim. So that's right. Jim Jordan and crew have put him and others on notice that they're going to be being called up before them, didn't they?
Yep.
So, and rather than getting called, and rather than be made look the fool before the House committee, he decided to come out clean ahead of it. All right. Yep. Okay. That's the truth of the story there. Then they're afraid he's doing this now to protect himself and the others from catching his some of the flack that they're going to get when they get called up before the House. Uh, I imagine that's Jim Jordan's group. That's he's going to be before. But this admission is just going to be red meat for those hearings.
Yeah.
This admission itself, I mean, this whole thing is just more red meat. So that's going to be makes me all the more fun to want to read that. I mean, to hear those, to watch those hearings. That is going to be a circus. I may have to ensure I've got time set aside and live stream those hearings. Have some fun with it. Some political commentary.
Just make sure you add lots of commentary to it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There was something else here I wanted to bring up, and I can't for the life of me remember what it was now. I touched on that story. Oh, what was her name? The Democrat that just switched positions on prison time because she got mugged in a hotel elevator in D.C. She voted to overturn D.C. Yeah, that's something I want to talk about tomorrow. Is the D.C.'s allowing illegal immigrants to vote?
Oh yeah, in local elections and that. How much
Right.
longer do you think it'll take till they let them vote in all their in federal elections too? See, that's the part that really bothers me.
Yep.
Because you know that's coming.
Carrie Lake has managed to piss off some people.
Well, yeah. See, some people just be pissed off no matter what.
Yep. Yep. Carrie Lake remains seated during the Black National Anthem. How rude and disrespectful of her.
What is it though?
No. I've just, and see, this is one of the reasons why I pretty much stopped watching professional football. There's only one national anthem.
Pretty much.
There's only one. And if we're going to start having the divisiveness of having national anthems based upon race and such, then where's the Jewish national anthem? Where's the Irish national anthem? Where's the German national anthem? Where's the English national anthem? Where's the Ukrainian national anthem? Where's the, we go, oh, we got Russians living here, Russians, I mean, where are all these other national anthems? And if the NFL is going to start playing them all, then, schedule what, a 5-hour ball, or instead of a 4-hour ball game, schedule 6 hours, with the first 2 hours being nothing but national anthems for every racial group in the country. Whatever happened, again, all this kind of crap does is cause divisiveness. Well, that's not my national anthem. I've got the black national anthem. I've got the Jewish national anthem. That "Oh Say Can You See" is not my national anthem. And the NFL is doing nothing, and anybody who supports this stuff is doing nothing to try to heal some of these wounds that we've got going on with the racial divisiveness in this country. It's got to get healed. It's got to get healed quickly, or else it's just going. The country is even going to self-destruct even faster. So, oh yeah, I don't know if you saw this with our our wonderful press spokesman here.
Why is the American military shooting something out of the sky over Canada?
Because it's part of NORAD. There is the NORAD is part of like it's a what you call a coalition, a consortium,
pact
and so
of nations.
a pact,
Okay.
Exactly. And so that's why we were able to do that. Again, we didn't do it on our own. We did
Right.
it clearly in step with Canada.
Oh, and that is when you put diversity of skin tone, background, sexual preference, and gender ahead of merit and skill and qualifications.
Yes.
Oh my God. That is so embarrassing to watch.
Canada. That's what I say to make fun of them.
Yeah, that's a joke. That's the stuff that we don't. Anyway, that's really all I've got right now that I want to cover into. I've got some stuff that tomorrow I want to get into with there's did you see my retweet of the experts definition of what an AR can do?
No, I did not.
Okay. Let me pull this up on the screen to give you one last good laugh. All right. I'm familiar with the features, accessories, and capabilities of rifles regulated by penal code, yada, yada, yada. The AR-15, like the M4, is an offensive combat weapon system. The only difference is the AR-15 cannot fire on full auto or burst. A picayune difference that cannot serve to support a non-combat role for the AR-15. And my experienced soldiers are trained to select fire weapons to semi-auto mode, so a single round is pull fixed trigger, and M4 and M16 on full automatic is an area fire, yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's come on down here to the bottom. This is the part I had to laugh at. The AR-15 and the M4 are both designed to fire a 223 round that tumbles upon hitting flesh and rips through the human body. A single round is capable of severing the upper body from the lower body or decapitation. The round is designed to kill, not wound. And both the AR-15 and M4 contain barrel rifling to make round tumble upon impact and cause more severe injury.
That's not what rifling does.
The combination of the automatic rifle and 223 round is a very efficient killing system. The same can be said of the AR-15. Oh my God. How much wrong can we say is there in them? Those are the very last few sentences.
Well, actually, how much can we say wrong about the entire thing? Because obviously he doesn't understand. Because back when, see now, I don't know about you, but back when I was a kid, see, I grew up out in the country.
Yep.
And we used to take our 223s, right? That, that massive, huge, ginormous round, right? Of course, they were bolt action. The one that I used was bolt action. And we used to use that for shooting varmints.
Mm-hmm.
Prairie dogs, gophers, things of that nature, right?
Right.
Now, it didn't even decapitate, well, unless you hit it just right. It didn't really even decapitate the varmint.
If you popped his neck just right, you hit that groundhog just right, or that gopher.
But yeah, what I'm saying is we used it to shoot varmints because it wasn't a high power enough round for much. You're not going to take a 223 deer hunting.
No.
Because it's kind of cruel to hit a deer with that because you have to hit them 2 or 3 times, right? So that's that. And the other thing is rifling does not cause a bullet to tumble. What it does is spins that bullet so it flies on a truer trajectory further. That's what rifling does.
And second of all, the idea of using a 223 round in combat is to cause wounds, because then you're taking, for every wounded soldier you have, you're taking 2 more out of combat, because it's going to take it at least 2 more to haul that wounded soldier off.
Do you know what the main reason they adopted the 5.56 round or 223 round for combat is?
What you got?
Well, the main reason they adopted that round is because it's lighter and you can carry more rounds.
Okay.
That's the main reason for that.
That's the same thing I heard, but I just wanted to make sure. I mean, you know how stories get told.
Yeah, because you look at World War II, right? They were carrying the M1 Garand. What was that? A 30 caliber, I believe.
I'm not certain what that one shot.
Yeah, I believe it was a 30 caliber round.
120 mil. 120 mil. Oh no, that's okay. No, that's G uh, GARAND. There we go. Get to the right one. Yeah, it's 30 cal. It's 30 cal.
Yeah. And so I don't know if you've ever seen a 30 cal bullet, but it's significantly heavier than the 5.56.
Oh yeah.
So you couldn't carry as many rounds, right? And so that was part of the reason. And,
Well,
5.56 is much lighter. You carry more rounds.
well, not only that, but the M1 you could it was a 15 round magazine
Yeah.
versus you could put 30 in a magazine for the M16. So,
Yeah. The M16, the Mattel gun.
yep. But yeah, and there is absolutely no way an AR-15 decapitates somebody.
No, it's not
There's
physically
absolutely no
possible.
way because a single round for an M16 or an AR-15 can sever a body at the midriff with a single
No.
round.
Not only that,
Now,
but you when you look at the speed of the round and everything, right? Um, when that bullet hits, it doesn't necessarily tumble, but it does flatten when it hits.
now it does tumble if it hits bone.
Yeah. Well, once it hits the body, right? Then the round's going to tumble, but almost all rounds will, except for like a 9 millimeter at close range, right? Will just scoot right through somebody. It'll just it over penetrates because so with that being said, the same thing would probably happen with the
Okay.
5.56. If you hit somebody too close, it'll just probably go right through them. I don't
If
know.
you're, tumbling around, why bother aiming? Yep, you're right about that.
Yeah,
You can't aim
you
a
can't hit the
tumbling round.
broadside of a barn with that
Yeah.
because
Uh,
I don't know when I take my 5.56 rounds or my 223 rounds to the range. Um, they seem pretty accurate, and I don't see a lot of they travel pretty quick. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of BS in this.
Neil's talking about Browning's new ammo, which I'm totally unfamiliar with.
Oh, what ammo's that?
Uh,
Please
Brown,
share.
if you had Browning's new ammo, then yes, it's designed for maximum impact. He's seen the 243 round almost cut a deer's head.
Yeah, well, that's
I haven't seen that. Since I don't go deer hunting anymore, and my son's got my 30-30 that I use for deer hunting. So yeah, I gave my son my lever action. So he gets it. Of the 4 deer he got this year, 2 of them were got with that 30-30. So I'm happy he's using it and having fun with it.
yeah. Sounds like fun is being had by
No,
all.
it is the same time, the same Christmas I gave him the 30-30. His wife gave him a 30-06.
Nice.
So he's sitting there, goes, and we both gave them to him for deer hunting. So he's like, okay,
Yeah.
to
So
make it to keep peace in the family, I will half my trips I'll use this one, and half my trips I'll use the other one.
well, the thing with the 30-06, it's basically a 30 caliber round as well.
Yeah,
So
Browning BXR rounds.
ooh.
Okay, I'll have to. I don't know anything about those. I'm going to be honest. I'd never even heard of them before.
Yeah. See, I did read something about that, but I haven't really dove into it to figure out
Rapid
what's.
expansion ammo. Okay. All right. Interesting.
So basically, kind of a hollow point kind of thing, but I don't know. Now I'm gonna have to look into it. Now I'm curious. Yeah. See, I don't know if I would really need something like that, but XBR, you said?
BXR.
EXR.
That sounds like something else. Oh, it's plastic tip.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking
There.
at it now. So it's, basically designed for medium-sized game, antelope and deer, stuff of that nature. And you can get it at Cabela's.
Yep. Okay. Finally got a picture of the ammo itself. Here we go. I'll put this out there for anybody that wants to see it. Boy, they went and changed this setup, and it's absolutely confusing the hell out of me. For sharing screens.
Yeah.
Okay, 97 grain whitetail mule deer. And you say that's a plastic tip on it? Okay.
Is it, or is it a 243 Win? The very tip is plastic and the rest is metal. That's interesting.
Yep. Okay, that's I'll have to ask my daughter-in-law and her brother what they think of them. I'm going to be honest. My son, while he's a good shot and such, he is not into the technical aspects of game hunting.
It's
My
always up on.
daughter-in-law and her brother are much more the expert on it. You're seeing 4-3 wins and 6-5 Creedmoors. Okay. Huh. Made a note to talk to them about that. But anyway, that is all I have got for the day. That was pretty interesting there at the end. They're talking about that new bullet. And but you see, that is a much larger round than the 223. And the 223 is just physically incapable of doing that.
It is, yeah. It's
Doing
not
the
gonna
damage
happen.
that this expert testimony claims that can be done.
Yeah.
So it's like the guy's absolutely wrong on folding stocks. He's wrong on forward pistol grips. This guy has got this is a Colonel Tucker.
I mean, what's he retired from? No, never mind.
I'm going to assume he's Army. but I seriously doubt that he is a line infantry. You know, but then he claims that the your side pistol, the only officers and senior NCOs are issued are the defensive weapons,
Right.
and rifles are all offensive. So, he's
Yeah.
Marine Corps. Oh, Badger, you just broke my heart saying he's Marine Corps.
Doesn't
Oh,
seem like much of a.
oh, it gotta be a pen. He, I'd hate. God, I that just hurts my soul. That hurts my soul to think a Marine would say something like that. Something that somebody, even a member of the Air Force, knows better.
Well, he's obviously trying to score himself some points.
I wonder what kind of job he's pushing himself for.
Who knows?
So, hey, Fury, have you tried those new glasses that are supposed to correct for color blindness? I have, yeah, from what I've seen, they're not that expensive, about $65 a pair. And I mean, I'm not colorblind, so I can't attest to what they do or how they work or anything else. I've just seen a lot of videos of people putting them on or being gifted them and seeing color for the first time in their lives. Oh, Neil, you're right. The military, Dar and I we could fill a week's worth of content on how the military's changed since him and I've been in.
Oh, yeah, like months.
We could do a week's worth of content and just barely brush the surface. And you know, and some of the changes are for the better. Let's not say that
Yeah,
it's
not all are
all
bad.
bad.
No. Some are, and some are just plain straight up weird because, yeah. So, yeah, some are just straight up weird. That's just all there is to it.
Okay, Fury, you're using words that I am completely unfamiliar with, so therefore I'm going to assume that you know what you are speaking of.
What's he saying?
Yeah, let's see. I worked with Clatterbridge Hospital that developed the chromogen processes that do not work for dochromats. They're developed in the mid 80s. The new ones are variations of the same theme. Fury, I don't know anything about them. Just. It seems like there's a lot of videos of people putting on these black glasses, and they look like sunglasses, but evidently they correct for color blindness, or so they proclaim.
Claim.
But I just there are more photographs of my retina that exists. Okay. I'm assuming that means you've got very rare retina.
He's a very rare retina.
And Clatterbridge in the UK is the World Center for Colorblind Research. Oh, okay. Was not aware. See, I
Learn
love
something
it
new
when
every day.
I love it when I got very smart people telling me things that give me new information. Now, I can't say that 6 weeks from, I'm not going to say 6 days from now I will be able to pull that factoid out of the top of my head, but if I hear Clouded Bridge again, I'll know what it is. But ask me to repeat it in 6 weeks, and I'll be, I used to know that. Such is life. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead. We're going ahead and shut this down. What you got? What you got for Salty Sailor Hood today, there, Dar?
Well, just remember, if you're gonna pee out the window, make sure nobody you like is downwind.
Always pee with the wind to your back.
Yeah, good thinking.
Yeah, it's like a rough lesson I learned this weekend. Sugar-free M&Ms are rough on the digestive system, and I'll never eat them again. Okay, and poor old Pure Kitten's got 2% color perception. Oh,
That sucks.
that hurts. All right, and as usual, y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. It could be worse. It could be Monday. Yep, you're right.
Yes, that's always the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I spent Monday and Tuesdays with needles in my arms this week. But anyway, y'all have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Be with the ones